friend of mine has a really old school Isuzu Bellet sports sedan. It's almost a historic car. Well, it could race in historic racing. And we're going to modernise it, make some improvements to it. In doing the fiberglass custom bodywork for it, I've got to keep in mind the classic nature of the car, whilst we're trying to incorporate some of the more modern improvements to sports sedans. So it's going to be a bit of a balancing act, and here he is right now. My goals in working on this car for a friend of mine are to bring what is a classic 1960s race car up to date, to get some modern improvements on it that weren't allowed back in the day when it was made, but to not ruin the classic look of it. And the owner and I have talked about a number of things. We've gone through a whole range of things, and we've picked out a few to start on. The first we're going to do is we're going to, in the boot, I'm going to replace the steel floor with fiberglass so that we can put a huge rear splitter out the back. That will look okay with a period car. Second thing we're going to do is to add side skirts to tie in the flares. And these flares, we looked at them, we looked at replacing them, and we came to the conclusion the shape of them suits this car. So it's not broken, why fix it? So we'll put side skirts in there. There'll be some blending to do here and here. So that'll give it an even wider body look. And then the main of the first three jobs that we're going to do is we're going to make the front end a fiberglass clip. Now, the guards are fiberglass at the moment. The front has a Hyundai air dam bumper bar on it, which doesn't suit the car at all. So we're going to sculpt some exhaust vents here. We're not going to put anything in the top there, which the rules allow, but that would spoil the look of the car. So we're going to cut in the guards here and vent out there. The bonnet we're going to leave pretty much as is. We'll probably get rid of this vent and just smooth that out. And then on the front, what we'll do is we'll add an air dam and sculpt the smooth curving line down to it. And then that will be made, it'll be moulded in 4 pieces, and then we'll make a complete fiberglass front end, and it will flip up. You don't see too many old Bellets from the 60s with a flip up front end on it. That'll give great access to the car. It'll make working on it a lot easier, and once we get the bodywork done, on the front particularly, then we'll have a look at what minor mechanical improvements we can do. Like I said, we've walked through the whole lot. We've talked about engine swaps and moving engines back, and under the rules today, the engine which is sitting here could actually be moved back to there. The whole of the engine could be under the windscreen and back. But we haven't made any decisions to do anything that radical yet. That's not that an expensive job to do, but we're not going to do the mechanical. We're just going to focus on the bodywork, get those things done, and see how we feel at the end of that. So let's start bringing this bodywork up to date, taking a bit of weight off it. I reckon I can get at least 120 kilograms out of this car and make it lighter. I've just roughed out a few things here. The first that I had to mark was where this front clip is going to be divided from the back panels. When you make a front end that flips up, you can't include the back halves of the flared guards, because as the front end goes up, that will foul your tyres. Ask me how I know this. So you need to cut the back off and make this a quarter panel that stays on the car, and this is the dividing line between that panel and where the flip up front will swing up. So that was the first line I had to mark, and I've marked it down to the centre of the wheel hub. Instead of going back to here where I did on my Civic, I've come forward here to try and make as much room as I can here. If this line had been coming back here, the vent, I wouldn't have been able to get the vent to the size and the shape that I want. So I've fudged that line forward, and that's where the dividing line, I'm planning it to be. So from there I paralleled it, followed the arc of the flare, and there's a ridge in the body line there. I'm following that and go straight up the door. So that is the panel in there, and I'm going to cut and push in, and there's a lot of room behind this guard. A requirement of our rules is that when you're looking at the side of the car, you can have these vents, and when you're looking at the side of the car, you're not allowed to see the chassis or the inside of the front of the car. So this panel will stay here, but it'll be cut and angled in about that far, and that's where we'll get the vent in there. So that's just rough mark. The orange string line that I put down here, I put from one flare back to the other, because that string line gives me the width of the car. The width of the car is no longer back here, it's out to the widest point, which is the flares. And so the string line gives me what I can make the side skirts out to. So I'll transfer this string line using a square onto the floor and put a line along the floor that gives me the exact distance that the side skirts can come out to, because I cannot come out past the width of the car as determined by the extremities of those two flares.